All right, looks like we are live. Hi, everyone. Happy Build Up number 2 second week, and welcome to tips from previous hackathon winners. My name is Bianca Buze. I'm head of DevRel at LUKSO, and I have some fantastic guests with me today, all of them winners in previous LUKSO hackathons. Maybe before we start, a bit of housekeeping. For those of you joining on YouTube, you'll find the sessions even after the live stream on the LUKSO YouTube. So if you would like to revisit a particular section from the live stream, or maybe you want to see again the whole session, you'll have the recording there. So I have some really amazing guests. They all win, as I mentioned before, in previous LUKSO hackathons, some of them even before we called it BuildUP. So I think it's time to do a round of intros, and maybe you tell us a few words about yourself and a few words about the project that you were building when you won the hackathon. Maybe let's start with Jake, because I think he was part of the first hackathon.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, my name is Jake Prince. I'm co-founder of Universal Page. I'm based in the Netherlands and been working as a software engineer for a long time. And yeah, I participated in the very first LUKSO hackathon, which is already over 2 years ago, I think. So that's quite a while. Things were very different back then. And I built Universal .page, which initially started out as a simple project to turn your Universal profile into a custom page for your profile. But I already had like a bigger vision around it. And after the last 2 years, I've been building around that vision. We now have the first NFT 2.0 marketplace, which exclusively will be launching on LUKSO, built on top of the newest standards using universal profiles. And it allows you to trade your NFTs, but also build this custom universal page, which is like a way to showcase your profile. And yeah, you can use it as a Web3 version of Linktree, but also showcase your digital collectibles and even sell them directly from your page. So you can turn them into like your custom NFT storefront. And besides that, we also built an NFT launchpad, which is like a no-code tool for creators to easily launch NFTs 2.0 on LUKSO. So yeah, you can use it to create your own custom mint page, prepare your collection, deploy your smart contracts, and manage your whole launch from a nice dashboard. So yeah, that's really a way for creators to easily adopt the new standards and launch something on LUKSO.
Thank you, Jake. Who wants to go next?
I can go next, sure. So my name is Sage. I'm based out of the US, currently living in Puerto Rico. I'm a co-founder and core contributor at Keys and multi-stakeholder over at Liquid. The hackathon project that we submitted in the BuildUP #1 was in the DAO voting key manager category. And essentially the premise was around some of our governance strategies over at Keys for non-token based voting. So we submitted a project that enabled you to create a universal profile that would act as your DAO. You could then host governance there, submitting proposals and votes on said proposals, and manage treasuries all without needing a token. So it was great to be able to experience the LUKSO standards and be able to kind of offer that new use case using them. And I was on the more non-technical side of the project, but Yellow Turtle here Landon was also on the project with us, and he'll be able to tell you a little bit more about how we might use the standards.
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's Landon Tucker, aka Yellow Turtle on Twitter and Discord. I worked with Sage. I'm a core contributor over at Keys, mechanical engineer by trade. Yeah, the LUKSO BuildUP #1 hackathon last year was kind of my first step into the software development world. It was a really fun time to use the standards, learn how to use the standards, specifically LSP6, the key manager, and just how versatile that standard actually was for security and adding permissions to a universal profile. So it was kind of cool to take the idea outside of someone having a personal universal profile and using a universal profile for a DAO or some type of other organization. So that was really fun. And yeah, it inspired me to continue on this journey and continue to take courses in software development and enter in the BuildUP #2 hackathon. So I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about the project.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Samuel Vido. I'm a French software engineer, and I've been working on the LUKSO ecosystem back to the first ever LUKSO hackathon, so the one where actually Jake won a prize. That's when we met the team where we built, with which we built LUKSO, which is the project that we released for the BuildUP first hackathon. So that was a mix between like kind of an explorer, blockchain explorer, and the social media. So we wanted to focus to put the highlight on profiles. And we thought it would be a good idea to have a mix between social media and explorer, because when you go on Etherscan, for example, you see a lot of activities, and it, in a sense, it could be something like you will have on Facebook or something where you see like, oh, like that person changed his profile picture, that person did that, etc. So that's this that brought us to build LUKSO back then, and the project did not evolve that much yet, though we plan on releasing a V2 for next year. Why? Because mostly LUKSO is evolving fast, and I think that Jake, you know it really well. So we're really dependent on LUKSO. So we preferred waiting to be on mainnet, and decided to work on project that will make sense, will make more sense from day one. So as some of you know, we build Liquid, and that's pretty much it for me.
Nice, thank you all. I love your stories. And maybe a brief mention here. Thank you so much, Sage, for mentioning how you kind of merge together your parts that are not really on the technical side, but you found like someone on the technical side with London, and you built like a great team. And all of them, I think you have really interesting stories. Maybe we go next and we look a bit into what really helped you into building on LUKSO and preparing for the hackathon. As Samuel briefly mentioned, like there were like kind of different stages of building LUKSO in the ecosystem and the different tools evolving around this ecosystem. So I think it would be interesting to look what was available when you were building, what is available right now, and most importantly, what you would consider really useful for our current hackers for BuildUP #2. Wants to go first?
Well, I could go. I think when I started on Universal Page, it was a very different time also in terms of the documentation. There wasn't really any documentation yet. The only documentation that was there at that moment was, I think, a guide on how to deploy a universal profile. So we have to figure out a lot of things ourselves. We had also some help from the team. So we're in touch with a lot of team members from the LUKSO engineering team to help us out. So I think for everyone that is now joining this hackathon and is participating, they should be aware that they're very lucky and that they are now having a very extended documentation available. And did we just lost all? Looks like it. But anyways, I think the documentation right now is really good. So there should be all the information that you need right there. One thing, if you are dealing with IPFS, for example, maybe you saw, but we have our own solution for dealing with IPFS on the Universal Page. And if anyone wants to use it, they can go to docs.universal.page/IPFS. And there they can see how we implemented it. And if they want to use our solution, just send us an email or DM on Discord. It can definitely save you a bunch of time if you get started with that endpoint. So yeah, that's just something I could recommend. And yeah, I think there should be more than enough in the documentation to get started.
I think, as Jake said, documentation evolved a lot, so now it's way easier. But I think what helps a lot, if you have time, is really going to check the code itself. I mean, I will go to check to really go in depth into the smart contract of the LSPs, into the documentation of the LSP smart contract repository, where you have actually documentation on all the standards. That's really important. And what I will consider doing is also going to check the previous winners. I think most of us have some contract and some repository open sourced. So I think that will be definitely something good to do.
Yeah, and then also the workshops that you guys have been putting together have been, very helpful. You did them for the BuildUP #1 hackathon, and then the videos so far for BuildUP #2 have been super helpful. Working with LSP1, working with LSP17. I think we're going to see a lot of really cool use cases come out of working with those standards.
One other plug too that wasn't around when we participated in the first build-up, but is around now, is especially would have been helpful for me where I was more facilitating the non-technical stuff. Keys has been putting out threads around LSPs now for over a year that break down the technical side into like a more of like a use case oriented post. So those are pretty good for like getting an understanding of what might be possible using the LSPs on a less technical side.
Thank you all. I think those are all great resources. Jake, I'll make sure to put in the comments for the live stream the IPFS link resource you were mentioning about. Maybe we go next and we'll look about team formation. We hear a lot of the times people like are trying to build a team or trying to come with different talents. What did work for you for building a team? And what was your experience, and what would you recommend to any of those looking to join a team? I'll start with my own piece of advice. There is the LUKSO Discord hackathon server, so you can find there a special Find Teammates channel that you can join, and you can show yourself to people, tell them about your talents and what you would like to build. But I would like to hear from your experience what worked for you.
I can go first. So the Keys team was actually, we were a team of 6. So we had quite a large team, which was why one of the reasons I know normally you don't have like a PM or someone like leading a hackathon project, but that was one of the reasons why it was helpful for us. But on the building the team side, I would say I have 2 recommendations. One would be find people that are motivated to do this work for outside reasons aside from payment. I noticed in the last hackathon, there were some teams that decided to like pay their teammates prior to the hackathon starting, and they had some issues with commitment of development or them leaving the project earlier because they were only motivated by that payment. So finding someone that's intrinsically motivated to work on your project, I think, is a big one. And to that same point, finding someone that's interested in the project that you're doing, right? If they don't have any sort of interest in building what you guys are building, then getting them to have the commitment of being on the team for the long term is going to be hard. And yes, Bianca was right. The LUKSO Discord is fantastic for finding people. There's also a lot of other groups out there like Developer DAO and like some other kind of like focus groups that are just collections of developers that are often looking for new hackathons to join. So plenty of people out there.
Yeah, I joined the first hackathon by myself, but I joined forces with Vlad right after the hackathon. He also joined that first hackathon. So even if you maybe cannot find the right person prior to that, I still recommend to participate and build something, because maybe you will find someone afterwards. I can really recommend working together. And yeah, hopefully if you have the luxury, find someone that can also do the things that you maybe can't. Like if you're front-end developer, myself, it's great to have someone who has a little bit more experience on the smart contract side of things, or more back-end developer. If you're more a back-end developer and you maybe need some help with designs, try to find someone that is kind of being a bit more of an expert in the field that you're maybe lacking a bit, because that really helps. And yeah, definitely would recommend to work with someone else on the project. Definitely helps with progress and yeah, figuring out new ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say it's interesting, right? Because I've met other people from other hackathons, and they're normally a lot shorter. So people are just trying to put something together, win some prize money, and forget about it, which is not really the vibe of the LUKSO hackathons, right? They're longer, a month long. You find you sift through people, find a pretty good team, and the ultimate goal is to, obviously win your category in the hackathon. But I think a lot of people want to continue working on these projects because they see the importance and the use cases of using these standards, right? So yeah, finding good people who are motivated to work on the project with you as a great start. And then, like Jake said, so last year in the hackathon, Keys placed second in our category, and then we ended up partnering with the person who won first to continue developing the idea that we both had, and it's worked out great so far. So
I absolutely love that, London, especially the idea of continuing the work you're starting post-hackathon. And I think all of you guys have done an amazing job with that. Maybe we'll look a bit into that, like what's the current progress with your projects, how it has been evolving, and mostly what you're looking forward next.
Well, Universal Page is at a very nice state at this moment. Like we're going to see universal profiles on mainnet. We are obviously being very dependent on the work by LUKSO. We've been dependent on like the tools, like the browser extension and the standards. And yeah, there's still like a lot of last minute changes to some standards, so we still need to adjust to that. But yeah, we have launched a test environment quite a long time ago already, and we had some engaged community members who have been helping us out with feedback. They've been testing out the platform over time. So yeah, we're feeling very confident about launching Universal Page pretty soon. So once we have upgraded to the latest standard changes, once universal profiles are our mainnet, that means that from that point on, we can start our final test round. We will also be starting to collect some universal profile addresses, some mainnet addresses from like the early contributors and the people who have really helped us out with testing and providing feedback. And we're going to grant them access a little bit earlier to have like a private phase on mainnet first and see if everything goes well. And then we can do a public launch soon after that. So yeah, that's obviously the one thing that I'm looking forward to the most, to actually get it in the hands of people and let the community play around with it, and yeah, really get to mainnet.
Almost there.
Almost there, yeah. A little bit more patience.
Yeah, very excited for Universal Page. They actually made it a lot easier for our hackathon submission because we didn't have to build a profile page. We could make it so if people had a Universal Page already, it just naturally showed up on our project submission, which was awesome. But on the continued development, we've been kind of developing in the background. The premise of this project is to be able to finally change Keys over into the DAO that it's always been talking about being. So we've had some reevaluations on how we might want to get that done. What are we going to change based on the hackathon submission? And we're nearing a point by the end of the year where we should be able to start testing some of these things internally at Keys. And as we move forward towards 2024, we'll go through some auditing periods and see when we'll be able to actually start offering it for other people to use. But for now, a lot of internal use at Keys to try to make our operation more decentralized, which should be fun.
Nice, thank you. So we talked so far about what allowed you to be successful, about your projects, the different resources that you used. Maybe we touched a bit about what you would do differently. So assuming you would start all over again now with the first hackathon and all the insights you have at the moment, how would you approach things differently? Anything you would
Yeah, one thing I know that we would do a little bit differently is we placed a really high emphasis on like the functionality of our site, but not necessarily the user experience. And I know like user experience in LUKSO is like this need, this necessity that they place so much emphasis on when they're putting out universal profiles and the mainnet itself. And it was something that we might have overlooked at the beginning of how do users actually interact with it. So that would be something that we would definitely take more into consideration is how smooth, how easy is it to actually use.
Anyone else wants to add any lessons learned or things to consider?
Yeah, I think along with what Sage said, the user experience, but also just like how much we added to the site. Like we were going for so many features and different things. Like we kept ideating on how to make it better and what we think the user needed, and we just started adding those features. And I think keeping it simple for the hackathon, right? Showing the use case, showing how important it is, and why you're choosing to build this. I think is one of the most important things. One thing I'm glad that we did do though is we really focused a good amount of our time on documentation, making walkthrough guides, informational sections, really answering any questions that we thought might come up, so that that way the judges knew what we were trying to build, but also it kind of helped us know what we were building at the same time.
I have something to add in there. There is one thing that we really struggled with post-hackathon, which was technical debt. So I'm kind of conflicted in this one because in a hackathon, you kind of want to build fast, build an MVP or more fast. So generally, you tend not to do that many tests, etc. But if you want to continue your project afterward, Jake, you did a really good job there. I mean, you continued over like on this one for quite long. I don't know if you had to rebuild it from scratch at some point, but in our case, I know that we had to rethink it and rebuild it because architecture is really important. And obviously, when we do a hackathon, we sometimes lack of time to think about the architecture of the end product. So yeah, I will definitely spend quite some time thinking about both the product and the tech side of it, so all the architecture, etc. At least when it comes to backend and smart contracts.
Yeah, I think that just to answer your question, like in universal page, I don't think there is anything left of the code base that we started with from what it is now. We refactored a lot of things over time, and we also had the time for it. But I think for a hackathon, you want to work towards an MVP version, like one thing that can showcase something like that brings some value and does it really well. But I also hope that in this hackathon, more projects have a bigger vision for after the hackathon, because in 1 month, you could build like a nice MVP, but indeed to build a real like quality product or something that maybe can become a startup or something that will last, it will take a lot more effort. It will take more time. It will take more work. So I really hope that people come in with that mindset, like, all right, I'm going to build a project for this hackathon, and it's really like an MVP. And you can get feedback because people from the community are going to try it out. They can validate the potential, and maybe that will bring you to other ideas, or maybe that will bring you to something else that you can continue on. But at least have that mindset, like, all right, I really want to use this tech. I know that this has a lot of potential. That this is something that offers a lot of opportunities. And don't expect that in just 1 month you can build everything that you want. It's going to take some time, but you have to make like small steps of consistent progress towards something bigger. But yeah, just focus on something that can be launched and show value in a short period of time, and then afterwards you can take a look of how you're going to continue with it.
I think we have some really good advice over here. Maybe we'll look now. So we saw a lot on the practical side. What should different builders do for approaching the hackathon? But I think equally important is the intrinsic motivation. So why do you want to take part in the hackathon? So I would like next to invite you to tell us maybe a bit why you're enthusiastic about building on LUKSO. What do you like about the LUKSO ecosystem and why you chose this ecosystem?
Well, for me, there are actually two things that are very important. First, LUKSO has a very, maybe still a bit small, but very engaged community. Like the people who have been rooting for Universal Page when we just started, most of those people are still here and they're still showing support. Like, so that really helps, especially if you're like, not able yet to launch and you were working on this for a very long time. It definitely helps to know that there are people out there who are really supporting you and want to use your product. And so that's definitely something that is very motivating in the LUKSO ecosystem. It's just a great community. And the second point for me is really the tech. Like the first time when I started playing around with smart contracts on Ethereum, I was also, I mean, it was very excited, but it was also a bit disappointing where the current state was of the ecosystem. Things are quite limited. I was really liking like how you could connect the wallet and you could kind of use it as a sign-in, but actually that is not really a very good practice. A wallet is very basic. It's just a public key and a private key. Like the first time when we were just learning about the fact that you cannot even check what's inside your wallet. You actually have to rely on like a centralized platform who is indexing the whole blockchain just to give you information about what is inside your wallet. You could only check like, all right, what's my balance for this NFT contract, or what's my balance for this token. And so from a technical perspective, I was really like, all right, that's not what I used to. We're used to just, Postgres or some relational databases. You expect that you could easily fetch at least what is inside your wallet, but those things were not even there. So for when I learned about universal profiles and new standards, I saw a lot of potential. And to me, it felt like, all right, universal profiles is just a lot more mature and something that has a lot more potential just at like the foundational level. For me, it's also really the tech. I think it has a lot more potential, a lot more opportunities to build great things based on top of universal profiles instead of just regular wallets. So that's also a big reason for me to continue with this.
On my side, I will say it's mostly the experience. By experience, I mean user experience. I think what hyped me back 2 years ago was this idea of universal profiles, and so the experience it will bring, experience that then I believe then that we see and we kind of see in action in the past year. So yeah, I think it's mostly that. It's mostly universal profiles and the experience it brings to blockchain. And yeah, again, with all the projects that we saw in the previous hackathons, we saw the how it was applied, and we indeed saw that we don't really feel on blockchain anymore. I mean, we don't really feel, we don't have the same feeling as when we're just browsing on Ethereum. So I think, yeah, on my side, it's mostly user experience.
I think for myself, I'm definitely attracted to like the long-term vision, right? I really enjoy the pushing boundaries and trying to do things differently than other people have done in the past, right? And I think that aside from the LUKSO standards being so revolutionary, that the vision, the long-term vision of how we're going to be able to change things and onboard the next billion of people is very attractive, and I really enjoy being around other people that kind of have that same vision. It really keeps me pushing along on the daily.
Yeah, I would agree. My answer is very similar to Jake's in that the community is very supportive and they're very engaging. Thinking back to 2.5, 3 years ago when I first heard about LUKSO, I was just put into a group chat with people that ultimately formed into Keys to this day, right? We've just been a group that worked well together, got along, had interesting conversations, not always agreeing with one another, but they're productive conversations that I think helped us kind of evolve as a community. And then slowly over time, I started to read the standards, started to read the documentation, and then LUKSO, wanting to engage the community, wanting to engage the developers, putting on these hackathons, it was really my first chance to use the standards. And then once I was able to use them and kind of see them in action, see the use cases, that's when I, was fully convinced that I was going to shift my focus into this space full time.
So the hackathon played a great role. Super nice to hear that. I don't have any more questions from my side, but we have a few questions coming from the YouTube live stream. So if you're okay with that, I would suggest to go ahead with those. The first one is, do you have a KYC project? I see a system where you could hold an NFT that certifies your human identity. This would make it possible to present it in Web3 applications without these applications being able to take our sensitive data. I say this because I have a serious project, but for it to work, I need to be sure that each user is a human and not a bot. I assume this is for Jake for Universal Page.
No, we're not doing anything with KYC, so I think that is not a project that is currently, not that I know of, that anyone is working on some KYC type of project on LUKSO. Maybe in the hackathon, or maybe it is a good hackathon project to build something like that.
Yeah, for the ecosystem, I would add the same. There is no official solution at the moment, but maybe that's something for you to work on BuildUP number 2. Our next question is about how much weight do you guys give to quality of code? I'll start from the team's perspective. Of course, code is important, but equally important is the idea, its feasibility, and how basically you can see that idea evolving over time. But I would also like to hear from our speakers, like what was their experience and how much you appreciate and how much you worked on the code side when you hacked.
I would say it was definitely a large focus, keeping it organized, keeping it well documented, with notes so that when the judges could review our repositories, they knew what we were doing and where. I think that's very important. But along those lines, right, good documentation, good user experience on the site also speaks a lot for, the quality of your code and then the quality of your project. So I know that this hackathon, it's set in the judging criteria that they're going to look at the user experience, they're going to look at the documentation. So focusing on all those areas is very important, right? Because it's just setting yourself up for success later down the line, maybe post-hackathon as well. Like you heard up here that all of us had to restart our code at some point. So building for the future is very important. So that comes along with quality of code.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, when we started Universal Page, there was only a guide on how to deploy a universal profile, but nothing else. The very first version, I was really focusing just on the user experience and the design and just showcasing also the potential. But there were still a lot of things that were not working as they should be. It was actually deploying a new profile. Any time where you're trying to update your profile, update your page, the very first time it was just deploying a new universal profile. I actually found that out later on, where I was discovering on that profiles discovery thing on F14 that we had. And I was seeing all these same type of profiles that was just constantly deploying. I was like, oh, fuck, I just screwed some things up. But yeah, at least it should showcase, I think, the potential and the thing that you want to achieve. Plus, on the other hand, now there are not that many excuses yet left to do something like that, because there's now a lot more documentation. Everything is pretty much finalized, and everything is a much more stable state. But yeah, you also need to take into consideration that you only have a month, and you might need to do switch some work between design, user experience, etc. And yeah, if you just showcase that you can build a nice project, and maybe you win some prize money, and hopefully you will continue that project, and then you can clean up all your code that you want. You just need to showcase that you know where the value of your project is, and that you can make something that is actually usable by people. At least that's my opinion.
Moral of the story: don't give up. Keep pushing for it. I love it. Thank you, Jake. We don't have any more questions in the live stream, but maybe before we close it, I would like to ask you all for any last tips for our hackers.
I prepare a few tips, but I think I have too many, so I won't go over them all, or I won't go too much in detail. But as I said before, I mean, what I think really matters on LUKSO is the user experience. So I will highlight my project on the profiles, and that was kind of what led us to create LUKSO. We're wondering like, what if we had profiles on Etherscan, and that kind of led us to doing this project. I will also kind of try to push something which is like kind of embracing interoperability. Interoperability. I'm always struggling with this word, but basically, I think that LUKSO also brings something for interoperability, because we have like accounts that have storage. And right now on Ethereum, if you want to go to get data from different apps, you actually need the addresses of all those contracts. So you want to get data there on Lens, on whatever, on OpenSea, etc. You have to go to all those different addresses. While now you actually can, if it makes sense, obviously you have to figure out if it does or not, but you can write data on profiles. So it's actually better because you can directly extract data from profiles. And that's one of the things we've done at LUKSO that we could not have done on Ethereum, which was basically writing all the registry, so all the likes, all the follows, and all the social information directly on the profile. Instead of creating our own smart contracts where people will push their registries, we did put everything on the UP. So I think it's quite better for interoperability, and creating standards is really important. I mean, if you're building projects, likely you will build smart contracts, likely you will like build data sets. It's actually really nice if you can just open source at least the data sets and the data structure. So if people want to use the same ID as you, they can build on top of it or with it. Or I think that's really something important. That's something that we try to push in blockchain, and I think with LUKSO do make even more sense. I had two others, if it's fine. I had also one tip, which is kind of building the LUKSO way. So what do I mean with it? And earlier I said that I kind of think like hackers should really take the time to read all the LSPs, etc., and try to really use them where it makes sense. And where I can take again this example is the ERC725Y store. So for those that don't know, basically the universal profile have an internal storage system, which is like a key value store, and basically all the LSPs have it. So if you're building a smart contract with a storage system, you can actually think about using this. You have to get the pros and the cons, but when you can, why not using existing standards on LUKSO, like on the opposite of doing everything from scratch. The last one, which I think is the most important, because it probably made the more, if we're all here, it's because we cannot continue our project. So I think it's the one that makes the more sense, which is to be quite pragmatic when you build your project. Think long term, like build things, think about things long term, think about things mainnets. Because if you build something just thinking about testnets, you won't care about gas fees, even though right now it's super cheap, and on mainnet it's still super cheap. You're gonna have to think long term. What if the gas fees increases? When we built LUKSO, we could have done everything on chain, and we thought about, do we really want to sign a transaction each time we like something? Do we really want to spend some leaks each time we like, or each time we follow someone? And obviously it was a no. So instead we decided to kind of create a balance between both, which was to create some batches of information that we will send to the blockchain. So basically users could do like 20 to 30 actions on the website, and everything was stored basically on the database that was hosted by us. And when they will reach that quota, it will be sent to the blockchain. So it's kind of we decided to go in a kind of mix between decentralization and convenience. And I think that's where what you should really think about: convenience and decentralization. I think that's pretty much it for me.
One quick one that I have too is if you have questions, make sure to express them. I think the LUKSO team is great with responding and giving hints and helping you out progressing through your code bases. The general community, just as Jake and Lennon have hit on too, is extremely helpful everywhere they can be. So I would try the LUKSO Discord if you have any questions, try the Keys Discord, kind of tweet about it, reach around. Someone will kind of help guide you if they have an answer for it. So speak up if you have any questions for sure.
Fully agree with that. We're here to support you guys. So whenever you have a question, shoot up on Discord. Jake, Landon, any closing tips?
I think I've already mentioned some things, and I fully agree with the things just been mentioned. Indeed, try to really come up with creative solutions and think of things that are now possible with these standards. I think one thing if you have like a bit of trouble with writing smart contracts, or you're not sure yet about how you're going to deal with backend stuff, universal profiles can also be used as a way to just sign into an app, and you can turn your kind of Web 2 version to a Web 3 version later on when you find maybe a teammate that can help you out with something like that. Indeed, you do not need to store anything on the blockchain. Like if you need to store any like or any comment on the blockchain, that's indeed not a great user experience. But I think it would be really nice if we see projects that really leverage the transaction relayer, make sure to also like the things that are now being stored on chain. Indeed, that key value store can become something that you can be very creative with it. And just like we use on Universal Page, we make sure that when you have a creator creates an asset that is being stored on the profile, so you know this is an asset that is being created by the profile. Then on the asset itself, the collectible, that also has a key value store. So we're storing the creators inside that asset, and it's very important that we can now have these on-chain referencing from a creator to a asset and back. So that way we can now validate if something is legit or not. And I think there's a lot more use cases by leveraging that key value store, and we can now have a lot more stuff being referenced on chain. So yeah, I hope that people will be really creative with their projects, and definitely continue after the hackathon and try to turn it into like a real platform, something that is usable. And just start small and keep going, make small progress over time. Fred and I have also been doing this while we're also working full time, so it's mostly nights and weekends. It sometimes can take a little bit longer, but if you are consistent and you keep working on it, I think good things will happen over time. So I'm really looking forward to see what people are going to build.
Yeah, I think the last tip from me is a pretty simple one, but just plan and manage your time effectively, right? You have a full month to submit a project, which may seem like a lot of time. It might not, but even with 6 people on our team from the last hackathon, me and Sage were up till the last minute, editing videos for the submission and getting it submitted on time. So definitely plan your time accordingly, and with that, build as many features as you can that you think are reasonable, and will help you place in the hackathon, right?
Love that. Thank you all. And since you mentioned about time management, I would like to remind our hackers, please submit your projects before the 27th of November. And as you mentioned, it's really important. The project is important, but equally important is the way you present your project. So make sure to allow yourself enough time to build on that part as well. Guys, thank you so much for today. This has been a great session. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing what worked for you. And I think you inspired a lot of builders today. We're really looking forward to see what projects will come out of BuildUP #1. And for our people joining from our community, joining from YouTube, also thank you for watching. And looking forward to see everyone on Wednesday for the second session with our LUKSO tech team for the Q&A. So if you have any questions, or if you would like to have your ideas maybe challenged by the LUKSO tech team, that's like a great opportunity for you to come and explore those. Thank you so much, everyone.